Man, that intro music had me get that Jersey Shore pump going on, man. Oh yeah. Hey, what is up, everybody, tonight, this evening, whatever you want to call it here? Live stream, Chasing the Tide. I'm your host from that, Dustin Nichols. My boy DP's over here. He's gonna be running the background tonight. We got a good little stream going on. We got Mr. Chad Hoover himself. He's going to come on and talk about Kayak Saltwater Series. And for those of you that didn't know, basically that's just what the KBF had, the Redfish Challenges. We had the last 2 years, and we're just going to start fresh. We got Mr. Chad Hoover himself to come on. Hey, Daniel, thanks for coming on tonight, too, and running the background. I appreciate it. Yeah, man. And we're going to get going. Let's get the ball rolling.
All right, I'm going to get out of here, and if anybody has any questions, please like and share the feed. If you have any questions, please ask, and I'm going to be in the background, but I'll put up your questions. And without further ado, here's Mr. Chad Hoover himself.
There you go.
What's up, y'all?
Yeah, what's going on, brother? What is up, man? Glad for you to take your time out your busy schedule and join us tonight. We appreciate that for sure.
I'm going for that Obi-Wan Kenobi look. I don't know if I'm pulling it off or not, though.
I think you got it, man. You know that lightsaber. Get your lightsaber. Get your lightsaber. So, man, I just, with all this going on, we had some discussions there in Gulf Shores at the final event of the year, the national championship, the championship of the KBF Redfish Series. So the decision was made to kind of branch off and making its own thing. Can you tell everybody about what we got going on with this new thing going on, the Kayak Saltwater Series?
Well, so, honestly, I started my kayak fishing career in saltwater. It probably wasn't until 7 or 8 years, maybe 9 years into kayak fishing, maybe even a little longer than that, that I actually really started focusing on promoting the freshwater side of it. To be honest with you, it's kind of weird how things flipped. In the beginning, I used to promote saltwater kayak fishing, but I would keep the freshwater to myself and not tell anybody about it. And I was catching really big bass and having a good time and had the water to myself, in a lot of places. And then saltwater kind of got to where it was really big, and freshwater felt like it was this little, redheaded stepchild of can we still say that? Yeah, I guess we can. Anyway, so
afterthought
of kayak fishing. So I decided I wanted to focus my efforts, on trying to grow kayak bass fishing. And ironically enough, I was on a big forum that was almost exclusively saltwater. And I said to a buddy one day we were all sitting around, I said, man, somebody should start a kayak bass fishing page where you don't got to sort through 5,000 saltwater posts to find anything freshwater. And he's like, maybe you should do it. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And then, to make a long story short, we bought the URL. Then I started working on writing the book for kayak bass fishing because I really wanted to light a fire behind the freshwater side, because I was trying to explain to the paddle sports entities how big kayak fishing could be. But especially, we needed that traction in middle America. We needed, the coast to coast, border to border uptake. And so I focused really hard on starting to promote the freshwater stuff, but literally, I fished most of the early Jamaica Bay tournaments. I fished and won one of them. Fished in the top 5, I think, almost every time. Helped start Tidewater Kayak Anglers Association. Was the president of that for about 2 or 3 years. I can't remember exactly. But helped build the Tidewater Kayak Anglers Association annual charity tournament. Heavily involved in a lot of the stuff in various places around the country that were all saltwater, and was really good friends with Joe and Joey and John from kayakfishingstuff.com when they started that Jamaica Bay tournament. And then again, just kind of stayed involved in all of that, but wanted to start focusing on freshwater fishing because I was stationed in Virginia. And we had a lot of saltwater. We were catching big striper and speckled trout at this place called the Hot Ditch and cobia and all this stuff with Kayak Kevin and Corey Ruth and some of the guys that were the kind of the early Kevin Whitley, Rick Burnley, who's now the editor of Kayak Angler magazine and things like that. And we really blew up that East Coast scene The West Coast was going strong. The Gulf Coast was going strong. And saltwater, in my opinion, was kind of taking care of itself. The IFA had a series going, and I had every bit of belief that that thing was going to do, big things, because why not? That's what they said it was going to do. The IFA was big. They had the sponsorship backing, and they were just so far ahead of everything that I had ever done other than charity tournaments and the Extreme Edge kayak fishing series back in the day, where I had some involvement with that. But I just didn't really think it made sense when kayak fishing tournaments were so small to start trying to fragment that participation and fragment that following. So now that we've gotten to the point with kayak bass fishing with KBF where we're really mature, not only have we done really well, but there's been, other series that have started up and done really well. That means I don't have to carry the entire torch, like I did a lot in the early days. And I'm not taking anything away from everybody that helped, but when I say I mean me, the team, KBF, and the people involved in that really had to carry that torch early on. But now there's so many clubs and organizations and small trails, big trails, regional trails that thing is almost kind of taking care of itself. And I'm not going to neglect KBF. It is still going to be, my first love. I grew up freshwater fishing as a kid. We'd go to the coast about once every 2 or 3 years. When I got stationed in Corpus Christi, I fell in love with sight casting to redfish. I had caught them on cut bait, and I had caught them on, popping corks, and that just wasn't that fun to me. But when I started sight casting to them with paddle tail plastics and a fly rod and gold spoons and watching them eat it at the boat and going for a sleigh ride, I was just hooked. And so I got obsessed with big trout fishing, big bull red fishing, tarpon fishing, chasing, multiple species, going down to Florida and spending a week, circumnavigating the entire coast, catching everything that we possibly could, going to all the warm water discharges up and down the coast, trying to chase big fish, all that stuff. And then around 2008, I started just catching some giant fish in the Virginia Beach, Norfolk area. Started driving over and scouting out some lakes in Farmville. Actually, I found one on accident when I got lost going to Appomattox or going back from Appomattox River Company. Started fishing in this lake, did really well. And this guy at the boat ramp was like, man, if you like this lake, you ought to go try this other one over there. And I did. And the first time I fished that lake, I caught a 10-pound bass. And the first 4 trips that I took to that lake, I caught a 10-pound bass. So I'm not kidding you. I used to get off. It was a 2.5, 3-hour drive from Norfolk, but I used to get off work, drive over there, fish it, spend the night, get up, fish the next morning, and then drive back to work because I was working, chasing the flight schedule as an air crewman in the Navy. And so every chance I got, I would drive over there. So while people from the inland side were driving to the coast, I had almost gotten kind of bored with catching schoolie striper. And at the time of the year that I was chasing these big bass, the big black drum hadn't moved in yet. The red drum hadn't moved in really strong yet. So I used to use that to kind of fill the gaps. And then I just got obsessed with chasing big bass because I had caught a few big bass in my life, but I'd never caught them like I started catching them from the kayak. And then I had caught several down in Corpus Christi by driving down to Falcon Lake. And I just thought, that's not me, or is that the kayak? That's just Falcon Lake. You know what I mean? Because Falcon Lake is Falcon Lake.
Yes,
but when I started catching these big fish in places in Virginia where people didn't think there was even bass that big, I knew I was onto something. So I started writing the book. The book led to the TV show and the YouTube channel. And then people started crying out, oh, you got to do a tournament. You got to do a tournament. So I did the challenges first, the online stuff. And so for the people that saw what we did with the KBF Redfish series, and for people that maybe have never heard of it, I want to explain kind of what we started doing. When I started KBF, it was just online tournaments. And for about 4 years, that's all we did, or 3 years, is we just did online tournaments. We had a bunch of really good sponsorship support. We had a lot of prizes. We kept the entry fees relatively low, and we were getting pretty good numbers. And then people just started saying, man, we got to have a live tournament. We got to have a live tournament. So we had one. Then they were like, oh, we got to have another one. So we had another one. And I'm not kidding you. My interest early on was to do one big kayak fishing tournament a year for bass. And that turned into the national championship. And then if you're going to have a national championship, you have to have qualifiers. So then we started doing the trail. And then when I was doing the trail, what really frustrated me about the trail was that about halfway through the season, if somebody had kind of really run away with Angler of the Year, it was hard for people to get motivated to keep fishing. So I said to myself, what if like there was an invitational style tournament where it mattered, the Angler of the Year standings mattered further than just Angler of the Year. And so I sit around and played with it, and I came up with this idea for the 10. And that would be the top 10 anglers competing, against each other. Well, what do you have to do to get anglers to participate in something? You have to put a carrot on the stick. So I went out and found sponsorship to cover the first ever, the 10 payout, and it was only $10,000, and it was winner take all. And then that was cool. We did that the first year. The second year, in the first year that we had the 10, we had some, and these are all lessons that we've learned along the way with KBF. We had changed the rules in one place, but didn't change it in another place. And to make a long story short, based on one way the rules were written, one guy was the champion, and based on the other way that the rules were written, the other guy was the champion. And so we basically just got the two guys together, two of the coolest dudes on the planet, Corey Dreyer and Ron Champion, two of the most professional guys out there, and they agreed to move forward as co-champions. That way it protected the sanctity of this series or this concept. And, if those guys hadn't have done that, to be honest with you, it could have turned into a crap storm, and it could have been like the end of the 10. But we've refined it over the last 4 years. We're going into our 5th year of the 10. And I think guys like it. I think folks look forward to making it into the 10. I think it's a badge of honor, even if you don't win it. The last 3 years in a row, the Angler of the Year has won Angler of the Year and gone on to win the 10. So Russ Snyder, for the first time, won back-to-back Angler of the Year. So now he's got a lot of pressure on him going into Kissimmee to fish for the 10. But we're not here to talk about kayak bass fishing. What we're here to talk about is Kayak Saltwater Series. And so the way that this was born, and you were there, you were at the table.
Yes, sir.
I sit down and I said, guys,
but
what do we have to do?
Before we do it, if anybody has any questions, please like and share the feed and ask any questions. And let's also bring on Drew from the Paddlers Play.
Oh, man.
He
just jumped on.
We'll
let Chad get on his field.
so he can jump in on this too, and I'll jump back out. Here we go.
What's up, guys? How are you?
Hey, what's up, man? What's up, brother?
It's
the tag team of the Texas Saltwater Podcast right here on Chad.
Yes, sir. Chad, before you get too far, I already texted you, but I want everybody to know Chad owes me about $160 because he showed me his setup for our interview that we did with him, and I had to go buy the Basic Girl light kit from Best Buy. So I have some nice lighting now. I have a new camera. I went and got me a mocha chocolate before we started this. I have the Basic Girl Instagram set up now, thanks to Chad.
He got the vlogger starter kit from
I do. I have the vlog starter kit set up.
You already had the makeup boutique backdrop bedspread and room and studio. So
for sure,
you had to finish it all up.
For sure, I did.
So what's up, man?
Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm glad to.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I just felt it was it's a good gesture to have you on. We try to do things, and we're all for growing the same sport. We all love and want to support. So I figured it's good to have you on, man. Have you on here too, since y'all just had an interview with him. So everybody else, my listeners that are out there, their episode will be out coming up. So we appreciate you jumping on because we can, everybody listen to everything.
For you guys that don't know what Dustin's talking about, I did a podcast interview with Drew about 6 weeks ago, and they still haven't got that video edited or that audio edited yet. So
it was a week ago.
It should come up. It should be coming out sometime soon.
And just let's agree to this. Can we please keep the pork question? Can we keep an exclusive?
Yeah. We won't bring that up. We'll keep the pork on the down low.
Okay, keep the pork on the down low. That was the only question I wanted to ask Chad that whole interview.
Yeah,
for you guys that are watching and you don't know, Drew asked me a Chitlin question, so you're going to have to go watch the other podcast.
Yeah, there you go. There's your cue.
Available Monday. It'll be available.
You're going to have to go watch the other
teaser.
podcast.
There's your teaser for the feed.
I got to say, I've been on a couple hundred podcasts or whatever over the years, and I think my answer to your question was like top 2 podcast answers in the history of podcast answers. So,
definitely.
You guys definitely, if you haven't heard it yet, you got to go over there and listen to that. So tell the folks where they can find that out. In case they don't know.
Paddler's Playbook. It is on. We're on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, everywhere that you can find podcast, and it will be available on Monday. So that episode will drop every Monday. We drop an episode every 2 weeks. We're trying to branch out more and more from just the Texas Gulf Coast, Louisiana, Florida. 2021, we're going to branch off everywhere. So we'll hopefully get some more guys from the East Coast, Tennessee, talk to some guys that catch some bass. I like to joke about I target bass as much as I target the salad bar, which isn't very so
you're more of the carnivorous type.
Yes. I need help when it comes to talking about bass. So we're looking for more bass guests, and that's why we were excited about KS.
Plenty of them too. Yep. Word. Well, here we go. Well, let's get back onto that track there, Chad, and you're about to come in with everybody talking about what the Kayak Saltwater Series is.
Yeah. So we sat down in Gulf Shores when we had the championship. Literally had arguably the like Knights of the Round Table of saltwater fishing at that table.
Pretty much.
It was really good. Some really big time hammers that were there. And so, I basically just put the question to the guys that were there, what do we got to do to make this series get better uptake? What do we got to do to get better participation? What are we doing wrong? And, across the board, 100%, the answer was it's KBF redfish. Now, I get it. And Dustin, if you'll remember my answer, I said, well, listen, how many of you guys here hunt? And pretty much everybody there raised their hand. And I said, so do you guys go buy hunting stuff at Bass Pro Shop? Everybody was kind of like, because they kind of knew where I was going with this.
Yeah.
It's called Bass Pro Shop, but you can go buy hunting stuff there. Well, I thought, and my philosophy was to keep things simple. Let's call it the KBF Redfish Series because KBF is a brand. It's known. We've got a huge following, and let's use that to kick it off. But I didn't really get any that didn't resonate with the folks that were sitting at that table. They were like, nah, dude, I'm picking up what you're putting down, but then I'm putting it right back down because it needs to be its own thing. It needs to be saltwater. Saltwater is secular. Saltwater is different. Saltwater is saltwater. Saltwater, that's why Salt Life guy is like a gajillionaire, right? It's because it's a different culture. And I get it. I spent over half of my adult life coastal. I was in the Navy for 20 years and 5 days. So I get it. So literally got a bunch of feedback and said, okay, if we do it, we're going to have to go back just like we did with KBF. We're going to start with challenges. We're going to work our way up to a couple of live events. But I'll do this. I think that the best event in KBF is the national championships combined. And then my favorite event is the 10.
Yes.
The 10 is like, the championships, the national championship, Trail Series championship, and Challenge Series championship combined is like a huge community event. That's an event for the community. There are people who come to that event that don't even care about winning. The 10 is different. Those guys are stressed out for 3 weeks before the event. They're probably stressed out now. We interview them live one at a time over a 10 or 11-day window. We build them up going into the event. We even have an event leading into the 10 called the 10 Invitational where somebody else can win their way in. So most of the guys in the 10 feel compelled to fish the 10 Invitational to run defense to keep one more person from making it into the 10. So I love everything about it, right? I kind of think of it as like the ultimate fighter of kayak fishing. You know what I mean? We put them in a house. The house is pretty much a mansion. We treat them like royalty or as best we can, kayak fishing royalty. And all they have to worry about is fishing. We take care of the food. We take care of the lodging. We take care of their expenses. And so I said to you guys at that table, we're going to do the same thing. So I don't know where I'm going to find the money, but I'll commit before we ever have the first paid KSS member, and before we ever have the first sponsor, we'll do the 10. So we officially have the KSS, the 10. We're building it out right now. We're shopping it to tourism hosts. Gulf Shores, Alabama is going to get first right of refusal because they stepped up and helped us even after they got devastated by a hurricane. And so if there's one thing you'll learn about me in this game is I'm loyal, and I'm going to do everything I can to help those that have helped us get there. And so we're going to go to Gulf Shores, and we're going to give them an opportunity to do what we did with KBF, which is to do the national championship back to back to back for the first 3 years in the same location. That way people can count on it, can depend on it. You know, it's not moving around and making it that complicated, and it's easy for us to run. And we get one partner that can come in and feel like they're going to get a lot of return on investment. Once we get it built up and it's mature and we have a $50,000 to $100,000 payout like we've done with KBF, then we can start moving it around, shopping it to other cities and things along those lines. So really, we're going to take the same formula. The only thing that we're doing different with KSS over KBF is we're not going to do 3 years without any live events. So next year we're going to do at a very minimum one live event per coast.
Yep.
So we have an Atlantic division and we have a Gulf division. We're going to do the national championship in Gulf Shores, Alabama next year, which is kind of an unofficial announcement because we're still negotiating, but we're going to do it. We're going to do the 10 either there or somewhere close for the first year. And then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to have the 10 on one coast and the national championship on the opposite coast, and then we'll flip-flop every year. That way, the 10 guys get home field in one big event, and then the national championship guys get home field in another event. And I'm not just going to stick it in 2 or 3 places on the coast. I'm going to try to move, through most of the states, try to move through most of the locations, up, down, middle. And then ideally what I think is the long-term goal. Well, no, let me rephrase that. My long-term goal is to have 6 live events, which is 3 per coast, a regional final on each coast, and a national championship. So basically 8 total live events, and then the national championship, which being the 9th, and then the KSS, the 10, being the 10th. My goal with the KBF, the 10, is to ultimately get that payout to something not just respectable, but to be, mind-blowing, right? Right now we pay out $10,000 for first, $5,000 for second, $4,000, $3,000, $2,000, and we do $1,000 all the way down from 5th to 10th place. But I want to move that up to that $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 payout range for the first place, and then taper it down through the field. So
things will get real serious if that happens right there. So I'm gonna tell you right now, when you brought up the 10, at that table, everybody just lit up, because for those of the people that don't know what that is, being familiar with KBF and fishing the bass tournaments itself, I know what the 10 was. So when that came up, it was just like boom, like fireworks and stuff.
So here's what I think about the 10. When it comes to guys competing for Angler of the Year, they compete at different locations around the country for aggregate points that then gets combined. And then the only time they fish on the same water at the same time in the same location is during the national championship or Trail Series championship. And that's a part of their formula. But what I really wanted to do with the 10 is to have that best of the best tournament where you take the top 10 guys in the Angler of the Year standings. And let's be real. If you're in the top 10, probably even top 15, 20, any given day, any one of those guys or gals can win that event or win an event. What I want to see and what I wanted to create with the 10 is an event where it is the only time that those anglers are on the same water at the same time under the same conditions without having to worry about travel, without having to worry about sleep deprivation or where they're going to stay, one sleeping in a tent, one sleeping in a hotel. Comfort isn't going to be an issue. Whether you were fed is not going to be an issue. Yep. Stressing out over having enough money to make the event is not going to be an issue. And then let's find out who the baddest summit on the planet is for that week. And so far, for the last 3 years, it has been the Angler of the Year every single time. And to be realistic, if we went back and looked at how the Angler of the Year standings are done now, and if we recalculated them back then, Corey Dreyer and Ron Champion, who were the first co-champions, would have been right up there with it. And so realistically, almost every time the top angler in the country has come out pretty close to the top or right there. But it also gets rid of that question about, well, did he just get to travel more? Did she just get to travel more? Were they lucky in a couple of events? Because this is, like I said, it's that one time you put them on the same lake in the same conditions at the same time and find out who's the best of the best, you know? And to be honest with you, man, as a guy who loves to compete myself, but don't have as much opportunities as I want, and then when I go out and kind of half-ass it when I do an event, and I'm really kind of doing it more to get the KBF name out there or just to throw my name in the hat, I love being a part of that event because it's like going to a concert where you can feel the energy even though you're not the one on stage, because I'm sitting there watching these guys fish and following them with a camera. And I mean, you can feel the intensity. You know, you can feel the pressure. You can go in that house the evening before the first day of fishing and you could cut the knife. You could cut the tension with a knife. You could go in there the second night after they fish one day and they got one day to go and you can't cut the tension with a knife. You'll need a damn chainsaw. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that event is just, I want to bring people more of the backstory behind it. I want to show the preparation. I want to show the interpersonal, you know, dynamic inside the house and that kind of stuff too, to show what this sport's all about. You got guys that are trying to kill each other, but still sharing information. You don't find that in any other sport.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
They're talking about where they're fishing. They're talking about what lures they caught them on. It's such a cross section of what makes us different as a community that it's not even funny. And you know, I watched that down in Gulf Shores when I asked you guys the first night what you wanted to do, and then that night I went back to the hotel and I bought the website. I got the social handles. I created the logo. You know, we got everything done that night, and I came back and showed it to you guys the next day. But part of it was we had the Open on Friday.
Yes.
And there was guys telling each other where they fished, and the championship was the next day. And I was like, you know what? This is what kayak fishing is all about. This is what I love about this sport. And, you know, saltwater fishing is, again, it's where I cut my teeth. There's nothing like a tarpon breaking the surface and clacking its gill plate. There's nothing like a big snook, you know, straightening a hook out or running you up in the mangroves and breaking you off. It's nothing like a big trout sucking a corky and you don't even feel the bite, but you just know that it's got it because you don't feel the bottom anymore. There's just something about all that. You know what I'm saying? There's something about watching a redfish blow up on a topwater 7 times and getting it on the 8th time. You know what I'm saying? There's something about throwing a spinnerbait, a redfish magic or something like that, and watching a redfish come up behind it and it look like a damn submarine surface and the water's beating off its head. And there's just something about a shark coming out of nowhere and blowing up a topwater. You know what I mean? There's just something about all that is awesome. It's exciting. But I'll tell you why I started where I started is most of the population doesn't live on the coast. The coast is a little bit more expensive. The coast is a little bit more dangerous in certain cases, right? You got to know the tide. You can get into big water and big trouble real quick. So I wanted to grow kayak fishing, and I knew that Middle America was the place to do it, right? There's guys that watch Jim Salmon's show, and nothing against Jim. I love Jim to death. But Jim's show is a couple of kayaks in Panama, mothershipped out, and then you're trolling for marlin. And so a kid from Alabama watches that show and goes, man, it sure would be nice to do that. Well, then they see my fat ass on a TV show and they go, man, I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? So the reason that I went the route that I went was, one, I knew that I would burn out if I did everything that I really loved all the time in front of the camera. So the part of fishing that I love is this still being able to do it without necessarily having to commercialize it. And so that's been saltwater fishing. You know, I go down and go to Delacroix or go to Hopedale or go to Leesville or go to, you know, Grand Isle or go to, you know, Mobile Bay or go to Gulf Shores or go to, you know, Cape San Blas or go to all those places and have a blast, but not have to worry about, you know, filming it. And now I think it's time that pendulum has swung past the center. And now it's time for me to pull the veil back on like who I really am. Like I love multi-species fishing. I love chasing everything that swims. I don't like being pigeonholed. I love fly fishing. Fly fishing has been my fishing. I like throwing a fly at a tail and red like probably nothing else other than shooting a big buck with a bow in my life. There's just something about it. But I also like throwing a fly in front of a big speck laid up on a shallow oyster bed with the tide just barely moving across her face, and that's nobody else would even see that fish, and putting a fly right in front of her face and watching her eat it. I mean, dude, I just love that stuff. And now I'm actually finally in a position to where I live central in the country to where I can go in every direction. It's almost equidistant. I can be in the Gulf of Mexico or Canada in almost the same amount of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so to me, you know, but with my relationship with Fish USA, I've also been exposed to some stuff like, you know, and going up and filming in La Crosse, Wisconsin, I've been exposed to some things that, you know, a poor kid from, you know, poor white trash kid from Louisiana who then moved to Georgia and then joined the Navy and went to Texas and Florida and Virginia. And, you know what I mean? I just wouldn't have gotten to do if it wasn't for, you know, chasing that dream of figuring out ways to fish more places. You know, people always ask me like, why did you want to do a TV show? And I'll be honest with you, access to places I would have never been able to afford to fish on my own or gotten invited to fish if it wasn't for that. You know what I'm saying? And so now I've got the ability to do that again in saltwater. I love the Northeast. I love the Midwest. I love going out West. I want to be able to get to a position financially where I'm not so upside down trying to keep KBF alive that I can go out West more because there's just some stuff out there. There's some saltwater stuff out there I want to get into. Calico bass, spotted bay bass, lean cod, halibut, all that stuff, you know, yellowtail. I mean, so I'm finally getting to a point now where I feel like I can do a little bit more of what I want to do. And what I want to do is do more saltwater. Now that KBF is pretty well established, Hobie has come in and took a big chunk of the pressure off of me to have to service the entire country. Bass is doing the same thing. You know, I'll say it right here on this podcast, and I've said it in passing, but I'm super impressed with what AJ has done with the Hobie Bass Open. And, you know, there was friction in the beginning between the trails and the clubs and all that because the competitors wanted there to be friction, right? And then that spilled over to the leadership. But, you know, you got to give credit where credit's due. What AJ has done with the Hobie Bass Open Series is fantastic. Yes. I would gladly concede that can be the Pro Tour and KBF will be the feeder league, the grassroots and all that other stuff because it's in good hands. They're doing a damn good job of it. And then I'm hoping that Bass, you know, steps up over the next 4 or 5 years and does even more because when Bass promotes kayak fishing, and the tides raise, we all win as kayak anglers because
we do.
It opens up more legitimacy to the professional side of it. But the one thing that I'm going to do different with KSS than I did with KBF is I got super focused on the tournament stuff. And the tournament stuff is great. But we have to build a community first to support the tournament series and then build the tournament series as part of a great community. So I really want to focus on, and I talked to you about this, Dustin, offline.
Yes,
I said, I want the Kayak Saltwater Series website and kayaksaltwaterfishing.com to be the ultimate resource for kayak fishermen, right? Whether it's, you know, how to rig a boat, how to, you know, read tides, how to read maps, like where to catch fish, when to catch fish, how to catch fish, you know, the what, when, where, why, who, how. And if we can do that and we can attract anglers to the community and get, you know, counted all under one umbrella, that's what's hard about going after saltwater sponsorships for kayak fishing right now is on the main side of the industry, they don't feel like saltwater kayak fishing has grown. They felt like it plateaued. Well, the problem is, you know, Bayou Coast is over here growing by itself. And low country kayak anglers is over here growing by itself. And tidewater kayak anglers is over here growing by itself. And, you know, New England kayak fishing is over here growing by itself. And they're all growing, but there isn't a way to say this is the quantification of what saltwater kayak fishing is. And that's what we hope to bring to the table. We have to bring a head count, a posture, a community feel, analytics and traffic that we can show to sponsors and go, hey, this is a huge community that is being completely underserviced. And then my goal is to bring that unity together so I can give back to the saltwater side of the community and do the same thing on the KBF side. So that's the goal. That's
awesome. All right. So they say Chad Everett Parks got a question. I'm sure we'll see that here in a second. But well, we got a basic on what it is. It's going to kick off Tuesday, the 1st of December is going to be the start of the first monthly challenge series. You want to tell everybody what that is that might not be familiar with that?
Yeah, so it's a month-long online challenge, 5 fish. It's a slot, but we also convinced Livingston Lures to step up and help us grow the saltwater side right out of the gate. So there's a $1,000 first place tournament going on there as well. That's Livingston Lures Shootout. If you're using Livingston Lures and you do a little 20 to 30 second video, there's a bonus. So guys, go over to Fishing Chaos and check that out. But it's basically two tournaments at one time, and we're literally we already have more participation in that tournament than we had in any of the KBF Redfish Series events. So I asked, you answered, we put the system together, and you guys have responded. So that's all we can ask for, and we can keep growing this thing. So Everett Parks' question was, can we soak some croaker in competition, though?
No croaker soaker.
No croaker soaking. So we are going to do some community building type events. Anything that's Angler of the Year based is going to be artificial lures only. But I got to be honest with you, man, there is a place to do some big fish, throw a hunk of cut bait, throw a half a crab out there, and let's just create a spectacle of some monster bulls. Let's do some shark stuff. Let's do some other stuff, right?
Yep.
But those will be one-offs, right? Those will be one of a kind, big fish blowouts, big fish bonanzas, no holds barred is kind of the angle that I want to take after is, anything goes kind of a tournament, just to see what people can catch. You know what I'm saying?
That's kind of how it came up in the discussion in Gulf Shores, was that it's not going to be the Kayak Redfish Series. It's the Kayak Saltwater Series. So we do have room to grow into other species of maybe speckled trout here, sheephead event or offshore event for kingfish, striper,
tall,
you name it. Yep.
Bluefish, wheatfish, all of that stuff. Slams. I think slams are fun. Slams are the way to go for an entire series, but I do think it's fun to have a slam, right?
Yes.
I think it's fun to have a slam as a side pot to some of your major tournaments. You know what
and
I'm
that's
saying?
The cool thing about Fishing Chaos, that is a possibility to have the slam part of that monthly challenge too. Yep.
Yeah, it's just a separate leaderboard, a separate buy-in, or maybe not even a separate buy-in. We just run a separate leaderboard, and if you catch those fish, you have an opportunity to win something for it.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about it in the interview with us. We were talking about fishing bait, and we had that question about soaking croaker. Some of the sponsors, they may not be seeing some of this growth because whenever a lot of saltwater anglers first start, what do? They go buy them some shrimp. They go buy some mullet.
Yep.
They go buy something, and they start on they start fishing on bottom or throwing a cork, and then they work their way into artificials, and then they work their way into tournaments. And something easy like a live weigh-in can be intimidating for someone who's only been kayak fishing for 6 months.
Yes.
But the online tournaments and the community that you're trying to build there, that's a lot less intimidating for someone who's just now starting, just getting into the fishing. So I think doing some of those one-off challenges that's going to be awesome. And then I had a question real quick. I want to triple back. Is there a layman's, because we didn't talk about this at all, but is there a layman's explanation for how the points work for qualifying for the national championship or qualifying for your state tournament? Like in layman's terms, how does that all work?
All right, so here's the real simple breaking down, Barney style, written in crayon for you former Marines out there or active duty Marines. Okay?
Or if you have one of these lights in your basic.
Pretty straightforward. The Angler of the Year is your best 3 challenges, and those are worth 600 points with a 6-point decrement. The championship is worth 900 points with a 9-point decrement, so they're points and a half. So basically you have 3 live events and you have 1 championship that's worth, it's weighted. It's 1.5 points. And then your 1 trail is also 1.5 points. That's pretty straightforward. So it's 3 plus your 1 live event plus your championship. That's your Angler of the Year standings. The top 10 from that move on to the 10. Now, for the national championship, here's where things get interesting, and here's where we really need to work together as a community. We can't run every possible national championship qualifying event to get it to where we got it with KBF. We didn't do that with KBF either. We had help from clubs and partner organizations and things like that. So what we need to do is we need to offer the qualifications, and I'm offering now, any established saltwater club out there that wants to offer qualification slots for their club and their events that they run, then just reach out to us, shoot us an email, kssadmin@gmail.com, and we'll send you a link to get set up. We're basically saying we'll put up the big carrot on the stick. Your event can be a qualifier for it, and then that's how we're going to get that national championship to that bigger event where we're having 300, 400, 500 people or more. And let's face it, Jamaica Bay used to push 350, 400 people every year. The
Jacksonville
Classic was huge. It was always 400 to 550 people until it started kind of tapering off when there was a lot of infighting and bickering amongst the people that were running it or the transition or whatever happened. Ride the Bull, which is a little bit of a different creature, but that thing always brings a big crowd.
Yep.
And
big
so
crowd there.
The numbers are there and the anglers are there. We just have to figure out how to create that motivation. So if we can get the clubs to start creating qualifications and we start seeing the numbers start to build, we then do the onlines and we start to see them build. Then we increase the number of live events and we start to see the qualifications build. It could very easily be 200-300 people in a national championship this year. It could very easily be 400, 500, 600 people the following year. Or if it's not manageable to have that many people, which we'll have to just kind of keep our finger on, we do 2 regionals on one on each coast and cut that number down and then bring a smaller group together for the national championship. So the beautiful thing about it is there's way less states and way less distribution right now, at least for the Redfish series to qualify. Yes. And I imagine that we're going to create a similar format for striper from Virginia up to Maine. I imagine we're going to create a similar format in California for, the species that we want to target out there. And I imagine at some point we'll have 3 separate series.
That's awesome.
For saltwater. And then we'll have a bunch of mini series, like a sailfish mini series, a kingfish mini series, those kind of things.
Yep.
But the species that I can see having the most traction would be redfish, with your trout and your flounder as either a slam or as side pots.
Yes.
Striper in the Northeast with your weak fish and your fluke being your slam and your side pots, and then your calico bass and your spotted bay bass being your West Coast, opportunity for something to expand KSS in that direction. So
I drive out there to fish some of them tournaments.
Dude, I'm going to tell you, those things hit like a freight train. I got invited to go with a guy named CJ Siebler back when I was on the Wilderness Systems team, and I was running the Wilderness Systems team, and he was on the Wilderness Systems team. And I went out there to visit the shop, and he's like, "Hey man, we got to go fish for, calico bass and spotted bay bass." And he shows me this like 6-inch hunk of plastic from a company called Hammer swim baits. And I'm like, I thought these bass were like, 14 inches. He said, "Nah, man, let's just go." We go and basically it's like bass fishing.
Yes.
Throwing out swim baits up under docks and, along grass lines and channel swings and things like that. But those little things so there's like the difference between largemouth bass and smallmouth bass, the way smallmouth bass fight is like taking that again and moving to spotted bay bass and these calico bass. They fight like a gremlin, like what I would imagine trying to put a gremlin in a sack would be like, you know what I'm saying? Yes. And they're just feisty, they're strong, they're aggressive, and they're fun. And so I can imagine that series, maybe not this year, maybe not in the immediate future. But I can just tell you, if the Northeast guys respond to KSS the way the Northeast guys responded to KBF, I can't imagine us going more than a year that we don't have a striper series in the works, and that those guys are trying to show up what's happening in Redfish.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Do you think the 10 will always be redfish though? Or
No.
you think there's a chance that you're going to move that around?
I think that there will always be a redfish, the 10, and there. But if I'm going to do a series, I'm going to take the same formula. So there'll be a striper,
Okay.
the 10. There'll be So I just don't think it makes sense to qualify fishing for one fish to go fish a championship for another one. You know what I mean? So
a one-off here and there, that would be interesting though.
Yeah.
Take a bunch of people that qualified for redfish and make them go catch trout.
I'll tell you the thing that I think has some really cool merit. So let's say we have a KSS, the 10, right? That's the redfish 10. Then we have the striper, the 10, and then we have the KBF bass fishing, the 10. How awesome would it be to take those 30 anglers and then do a draw for which species are going to fish for and have
go catch crappie.
Big
have like an
throwdown.
invitational, have an invitational where they all go fish for pike or muskie or walleye or something that ain't anything that any of them fish for.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That'd be awesome.
Pretty cool.
Invite like the 30 guys from the 3 different 10s to go to like the Salmonorama, on the Great Lakes and see, I just think it'd be something really cool to do a one-off event like that, the best of the best, best of the best kind of a thing,
Well, we just had a guy, Colin McCain, popped up a question here on the submissions. It's, for people that aren't familiar with the monthly challenges, he says, does the person who submits the fish earlier in the month take precedence over someone who submits later in the month, even if they're limited out on sizes? So some of the people, he had a question about the scoring on the fish submission.
Yeah, so this is probably leading towards the question of like, man, somebody's just going to limit out in the first 30 minutes.
No.
Everybody complains about it. When it becomes a problem, we'll deal with it, but it hasn't become a problem yet. So here's how it works. And this is all hidden, really hard to find in the rules. So it's size, then big fish, then second biggest fish, then third biggest fish, then fourth biggest fish, then fifth biggest fish. So it's the fish size. If all your total is the same, then it goes to first big fish, then second big fish. The odds of you getting down to the fifth big fish are pretty impossible. But because we have a slot and people can get right up against the slot, it's more probable in redfish than it is in our other series. So yes, there's a chance. And then it comes down to time of submission, but it's time of submission for the last fish, not time of submission for the first fish.
Yes.
So if somebody actually caught 5 fish that were between 26 3/4 and 27, because again, it can't go over 27, you actually can't really score 27 inches. You can score 26 3/4. The odds of scoring 27 exactly are like, it just hasn't happened. You know what I'm saying? So if you can get 5 perfect fish, then yes. But the odds of multiple people getting 5 perfect fish is really slim to none. When we first created this series, we heard so much belly aching about this is the way it's going to be. Some guy down in Louisiana is going to go catch 5, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know what? It happened 3 times, 4 times, something like that. And
2 years. Yeah.
Those Louisiana guys are keeping 12-inch redfish anyway. Those are the little babies that they're throwing out. I saw an 8-inch trout, and they were like, "This is gonna make a sandwich." Man, ain't even making a fish stick, man.
You got a fish stick.
Little trout.
So again, to answer Colin's question, time does come into play, but it's a 6th discriminator after all 5 fish. If there's a total cumulative tie, and then each big fish is exactly the same, then you have one more fish. But I've got 3 or 4 different ideas for how to fix that problem should it become a problem. Again, it's not a problem right now, but should it become a problem, I'm going to do something either like a 6-fish kicker, a trout kicker, something extra. You know what I mean? A bull bonus or something like that. So again, one of the things that we've learned with KBF is try not to fix problems before they exist, because we did that the hard way. We did too many fixing problems because somebody thought it might happen. We'll evolve. But for right now, here's the other thing that I got to tell guys, okay? This is the one that I heard a lot of people complaining about. Well, what if that person wins? You know what they win? The same thing you win. Because if they beat you by time, then they beat you by time. But if there's a 20-way tie for first place, the number one thing that I think we're going to do down the road that can easily solve the problem is the time submission will be the one that the money goes to. But we could very easily fix the formula to say everybody in first place gets first place points for Angler of the Year, because there is technically a multi-way tie for first place. That's not what we're doing initially, but I'm just saying there's a lot of options for solutions should that become an issue. How about this? I dare y'all to make it a problem that I have to fix. But right now, I'd love that to be a problem. I'd love the first challenge on the day one. There's 13 limits of all 26 3/4 inch fish, and then they're like, "Now what's up, dude?" And then
now what's
okay,
up?
cool. You know,
our weather's going to be crap, so it's going to.
But until that
Yes,
happens,
it is.
Until that happens, let's not get water buckets because there's not a fire. You know what I mean?
And then plus, and then the regions that they're going to be split in Key West, the Gulf, and the Atlantic region.
Yeah,
same deal.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Atlantic region and Gulf division, not region. And then we're going to also award points and Angler of the Year for each state. There is no way to really break up decent regions. Mississippi's always going to feel like they can't compete east or west. You know what I mean? Parts of Alabama aren't going to think they can compete, but parts of it can. It's just, West Coast of Florida thinks they can't compete with the East Coast. The East Coast thinks they can't compete with the West Coast. So we're going to do 2 divisions, and we're going to have state, but we'll have Florida Atlantic and Florida Gulf. So Florida will technically be 2 states, even though it's 1 state.
And that's for Angler of the Year recognition for each state also. And then I had a question off one of the posts about the if you're fishing different states, do you have to enter for both states, pay an entry for both states? Yes, there you go.
Yep.
Cool deal.
Yep.
I don't know. I know you're excited. I'm excited too.
Yeah. So look, man, I just think that if we do this right, this could be, this thing could be bigger than a 12-year-old in preschool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I haven't got this excited about something just because, I've kind of been in the groove, and I've been, what we do with KBF is a bunch of work, and it's the same work over and over again. And it still is exciting. But I'm getting excited about this like I'm like 12 years old, about to go play my first, next step up in Little League, prep league baseball, right? The fence is further. The pitchers throw harder. You know what I mean? There's less errors. The coaches are harder on you. Like, I'm really excited about this part of the evolution of, me professionally being able to start to create more saltwater content, being able to go out and reach out to host destinations to do saltwater events. And when I say events, I'm not just talking about tournaments either. Yeah. I want to bring back the concept, and I had already committed to doing that for KBF this year, but the saltwater is ripe for it. Bring back events similar to what the Boondoggle, used to be, and don't commercialize it. Make it just be a community event. Right. Yep. Some seminars, some giveaways, some, give some sponsors some love, but mostly to get gear and stuff to give away to anglers, but not to create some, over organized festival. Pack out a campground, pack out a field somewhere, you know what I'm saying? And just go fishing and meet people that their face from podcasts and YouTube videos and Facebook and Instagram, but you actually, you actually go there.
That's the whole thing about the tournaments and the events like that. It's just the camaraderie. Just like you said, we're fishing for a championship event. We're talking about where we caught the fish and what baits we were using, what baits they weren't committing to, and this and that. But that's how it is on the bass side too. A lot of these grassroots events are the same way. You have some new anglers coming in, and they're asking for tips and tactics, and you help them out. It's just good to help people out. It's just everybody, it's just a fun environment, and just the whole thing about it is just awesome.
There's not enough of that either. Facebook, newbies ask questions on Facebook and they get 23 smart aleck comments, and then 1 or 2 people want to help them. Yep. So having that community is a big deal. Having people who will actually help, and more people are more likely to help face to face.
Yeah, absolutely. It's real easy to be an asshole behind a keyboard. It's a lot harder in person,
Well, when you got to carry on a conversation of being a smart ass, when you can just leave one smart ass comment and
a lot of the keyboard commandos don't go to live events because they're back on their keyboard trolling some other page because they can't get a rise. So they're on their other group, they're on their macrame, pod hangers group, creating hate and discontent instead of the kayak fishing one. But I also think that one thing we could do to really make those events successful is to do seminars, to do those kayak fishing 101s and those how to rig an anchor trolley, how to set up an anchor, how to, how to assemble a black pack, how to make a milk crate instead of a black pack. You know what I mean? Like how to do all of those things that were all, do it yourself. Kind of the golden age of kayak fishing, in my opinion, is back when you had to make everything and everybody is like, oh, I love that idea. And we used to go to these get-togethers like the Boondoggle, and everybody would drag their kayaks out and set them up so people could see what their setup was like. It was almost like a antique,
like a car show, but with the kayaks.
Yeah.
Yep.
I started during that golden age. I had an ocean kayak scrambler, and there was no yak attack. There was no yak gear. There was no nothing. A milk crate wouldn't even fit in the back of that thing. Like you didn't
glue
buy
that PVC together. Glue the PVC together.
It was like sitting on a grease log.
Yeah,
it really was. It really was.
Colin McCain chimed in, wanting to know about the specific bump boards that we have to use for this event. So if you want to answer that for him, Chad.
So right now the rules are posted on the Facebook page. We're still using KBF rules until we get them transitioned over. The website should go live. We should have it uploaded Sunday, and I'm shooting for Wednesday or Thursday of next week to have it live. So you guys are just going to have to bear with me. But the acceptable measuring boards are the acceptable measuring boards on the KBF rules. So type in kayakbassfishing.com and click on acceptable measuring devices. Yes. We hid the answer to that question under the hypertext link, acceptable measuring devices. And just like we talked about on Drew's podcast, we even put it in Angler. There is a text version of what's acceptable and a picture.
There's pictures of the actual boards. Just
so if you only read Crayon, you can still figure it out.
Yes. Yes.
So anyway,
it's gonna be a good deal. Get these monthlies kicked off. Start seeing the points start accumulating, and everybody start battling it out. What's up, Kara Wells? We've had quite a bit of people on here saying hello and stuff. Miss Jean Wilson was on earlier. Greg Riddle was on. He won the championship this year. He asked if he got a free buy into next year's championship since he won this year. Yes, yeah, you go. Oh no.
So Greg, I'll take that one step further. I actually said at the event, so maybe you guys missed it. Everybody that competed in this year's national championship is automatically qualified for next year. So the way we do it, the way we did it with KBF this year is because COVID was such a craziness, we actually qualified the entire 100. The people that made the top 100 on the cut qualify for next year. And so for this year, everybody that competed in the KBF Redfish National Championship is already pre-qualified for next year's national championship.
Greg said, hell yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful area over there. I was very stoked to go over there and fish that all the estuaries and rivers and marsh over there in Gulf Shores. I'll be looking forward to going back again.
Yeah, you were in a good spot, man. When I asked you where you went and you told me, my kind of like
your fishing radar just started beeping.
Them fish just didn't commit, man. I was just on them bulls. That's all it was.
I was hoping that nobody really found the river that Dustin was in, and was hoping everybody would stay more like coastal beachy looking. But yeah, that area that Dustin was in can be magic. It can be loaded with gator trout. It can be loaded. You could have a school of Jack Crevalle come through there and break a topwater in half. You can have you can have baby tarpon in there rolling.
Yep.
I mean, it's just
flounder, bass. I call it flounder, bass, ladyfish, redfish.
Yeah, and if you go further up the creek, and there's like a little berm that separates a lake, you can drag across that berm into a lake and catch 7-8 pound bass.
I need to take some notes. Berm, creek, river. All right, let me write that down.
Right on. Oh man, yeah, I know everybody's excited to get this kicked off. So as far as it goes, membership wise, we're looking pretty good already.
To be honest with you, man, I've been blown away with the membership response out of the gate. A lot of people are doing the free membership, which is cool because they're wanting to kind of see what things are all about. And the way that works is, though, you get to see what the community is all about before you decide that you want to commit to becoming a paid member. But what that also does is that gives us a number to count. We get to say to the CCA, this is how many members we have. We get to say to state organizations, this is how many members we have. When I go lobby for access to a state, I can say, hey, we have 3,000 members just in your state, you know? And so to me, this is why we didn't think of the free membership before, just to get that membership umbrella going, is another one of those like light bulbs that took too long to get bright for me. But part of it was we couldn't afford it. We couldn't afford to do a free decal even for everybody with the postage and the handling. And now we're just saying we might not be able to afford it, but we can't afford not to. And for every free member, there's a potential for those guys to upgrade or those gals to upgrade. And then what was also awesome was that I went out and asked the community, most of you guys, Dustin, and the leaders that I could find, what their thoughts was on right out of the gate, adding a conservation component to what we do with KSS. Yes. And just added $5 to the price of the membership that goes directly to the state chapter of the CCA from the state you buy your license in. And there wasn't one no. There was a resounding, over the top response. And so what I envisioned for that is that at the national championship, we create the checks that show how much we're donating to the CCA for each chapter, and then present that check to the Angler of the Year, and let that Angler of the Year present that check to their state chapter when they go back home. You know what I'm saying? And then they get to take them the check, and they get to take them the big check that they can hang up in their office, or they can do a photo op with, and things along those lines. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I'm still a CCA member in a couple of states just because I bought it and did the auto renew, and it just makes sense because those guys do great things. It doesn't make sense for us to try to do our own version of that. And since coastal areas, you do damage to a lake, you can usually fix it in a couple years if if it's not too bad. And there's a lot more watchdog organizations. There's just so many things that can go wrong and go wrong for a long time in a coastal area, that if the CCA hadn't done some of the things that they've done to catch things before they got too bad, then they would just be the CCA has literally preserved so many fisheries and so many waterfowl habitats and things along those lines. And they've worked hard for access. I don't know if it's officially, kind of like advertised or what, but when I was in Corpus Christi, the CCA worked with the Nature Conservancy to establish a paddling launch. And that was a joint cooperative between the Nature Conservancy and the CCA. And if it wouldn't have been for that, that paddle launch wouldn't have been there. And so for me, the CCA hasn't had to have their arm twisted to take the lead on promoting and protecting anglers' rights. They've helped establish paddling trails all over the country. And so they're already doing what they need to do. So if we can throw them a little support, and if we can make them aware of who we are, that'll go a long ways to even make them fight harder for our rights, So I appreciate the fact that everybody jumped all over that and was all about it.
Oh yeah, I'm down with that. I fish in the Star tournament every year. I'm sure some of the other states, Florida, Louisiana. I'm not sure if Mississippi, Alabama, they have a Star version, but yeah.
I caught a fish.
Big chance.
I caught a fish in a Star tournament in Aransas Pass, Brown and Root Flat.
Yeah.
And
yep.
I loaded up, put it in a live well, drove to Roy's Bait and Tackle, and the guy that won the Blue Wave and the F-150 and the Blue Wave boat beat me there by 37 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So they released like 5 of them that had a tag for like the boat and the truck, the whole package.
Yep.
And I caught that thing, and I was like, oh my God. And I drove so fast that my kayak probably had the front of my truck coming up off the ground. And
started to get that lift.
And literally, I just knew it. Like, that's my luck. So they give you like, I think it was like $1,500 or something if you caught it, but then you didn't win. You weren't the first one. So I got like a $500 gift certificate to Roy's Bait and Tackle and like $1,000 or something like that, and pretty much spent all $1,500 at Roy's Bait and Tackle before I walked out. So
yes, it's grown a whole lot. I mean, I think they give away 5 trucks and boats now, and then 5 more boats only. Yeah, it's like freaking crazy.
I used to go into Roy's Bait and Tackle when it was like a metal shack, and I was like, "Kayak, man, you got to get kayaks in here." He's like, "Yeah." Rocky, who runs,
yeah,
like,
Rocky,
yeah. And then after I left, and the kayak shop down the street went out of business, I saw him at ICAST, and then I saw him at Outdoor Retailer. He's like, "Hey, man, we're bringing in kayaks," and then it was probably 3 years before I could make it back down there. And oh my gosh, it was unreal how big of a footprint he has and how awesome that store is. So,
their demos they do are some of the biggest in the region here. Them and FTU, when they do their underwater demos in the fall and the spring, they're usually pretty ginormous. Daryl Olson just chimed in with a question real quick. One of the viewers here: will KSS work with the IFA kayak fishing tour to eliminate possible conflicts? I guess he's meaning for the live events and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was a hard sigh. That was a hard sigh.
All right, so you guys know me, right? You know, sometimes I never do sugarcoating. Okay, so I'm not going to start now. I've gnashed my teeth at the way that the IFA has done the kayak fishing thing since it started. I didn't want to compete with them, but at the same time, it just literally made my scalp tighten up in the back, because I don't like doing kayak fishing where we're treated like the second-class citizen.
Sideshow.
I walked away from the FLW relationship, which there's there's a lot of people that can talk all the smack they want to, but very few people would have just said, "See ya" to FLW and Major League Fishing. But I did, because I didn't want us to be that. And to me, we couldn't have possibly not been a sideshow or a third show when I felt like Major League Fishing was even going to make FLW a sideshow, right? So to me, I knew that wasn't going to work. And so what I've always – hate's a bad word, but what I've always disliked about the way the IFA does their events, and after I fished one of them, I didn't want really anything to do with it. First of all, I think being able to drive 3 hours, 2.5 hours to go fishing isn't really a tournament. That's like a road runner, like it's, you know. Yeah. And then fishing after the bass or after the redfish boats have kind of beat the water up, where you then have to drive that far to be able to find fish that weren't, you know, already picked over.
They've been burning shorelines for 3 weeks.
And then the other side of it is this. Man, I'm going to get in trouble for this. The IFA has never listened to what we've had to say as kayak anglers from the beginning. It's never really truly been treated like anything real. And so I don't know why they would start now. And early on when the IFA started, because I was running the Extreme Edge tournaments and I had run the TK tournament, I tried to reach out to them and say, "Hey guys, I got some suggestions." And they literally were like, "Who are you, dude?" You know, and again, I get it. Who was I? Like, why was I telling you how to do your thing? But they didn't really listen to any kayak anglers, to be honest with you. I don't like things that are done to us. I like things that are done by us. So I don't know that I can see myself reaching out to the IFA, because A, I don't think they'll respond, and B, I don't think they'll listen, and C, I don't know that they would even work towards trying to do a deconfliction, because they're going to only tell me what their boat dates are and then tell me to work around it. They're not going to say, "Okay, let's work together." With Hobie, we worked together this year. We tried to last year, but there's some miscommunication, and that created some of the friction. With Steve Owens from Bass, we worked together on deconflicting our schedules. He's like, "Okay, I'll move this one here, you move that one there," and we worked it. The IFA would be really more like, "Here's what our schedule is. if you want to deconflict, then you have to avoid these dates. And then because I've got, I've got 3 businesses to run, KSS, KBF, and then my media company, which is what funds all of this through my TV shows. So I would hate to make that gesture and then say that I'm going to, and then the only weekends that I have available that works with our schedule is a weekend that they have something planned. And then I've tied my hands behind my back. Yeah. So I'll try. How's that? I'll try. I'll make a concerted effort to try. Daryl, part of the thing that I don't want to do is put my name out there to say that I'm going to work with the IFA, and then they don't work with us. And then it makes me look bad for having not been able to, to come to any kind of agreement, only because they were inflexible and weren't willing to do anything. So it's hard for me to commit to what someone else will do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Understood.
I don't like how they handle the championship. I don't understand. Yeah. How do you just cancel it and just say, sorry, we're not making any effort to
reschedule or do anything else?
We held our national championship in a town that had got hit by a hurricane
a month prior.
We had weigh in 30 yards from a tower that was laying on its side from the hurricane. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we had it with 15 people in the national championship because we committed to having it. We didn't say, oh, sorry, we're going to cancel it due to unforeseen circumstances. We don't have any plans to reschedule it. What about those folks that fished their ass off for AOI? What about the money that was held back? What about the sponsorship dollars that were there that didn't get? I mean, how does all that work? You know what I mean? Like how? I don't know. So to me, it was kind of flippant the way that they just canceled it. And again, I'm not talking smack about another tour. Somebody asked me the question.
Yep.
I'm giving you an answer. I don't really think the IFA kayak fishing tour is a kayak fishing tour. I think Hobie is. I think Bass is. I think KBF is. And I will promise you KSS will be. I think the IKA, the IFA kayak fishing thing is just a category. It's not real. And I don't feel like I want us to be redheaded, the redheaded stepchildren and the second-class citizens of the series.
Right. Definitely.
But I don't want to take anything away from people that have won IFA national championships and anglers of the year and all that. When you win against the best competition that's out there, because that's the only thing that's available, then that's what's available.
Yeah.
So you are the champion. What I'm saying is I want something better for all of us.
Yeah.
And now that you knuckleheads have drugged me in the ring, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it.
Well, here's a shout out to all you knuckleheads here in Texas that run these trails too. Y'all need to get contact with Chad, and y'all need to be a feeder to the national championship also. Saltwater Angler Redfish Series, Lone Star Kayak Series. We got some local clubs that have saltwater events, San Antonio Kayak Fishing Texas, Upper Coast Kayak Anglers, the Salt Club, all that. Y'all need to get involved in this too, and let's start this grassroots movement and push this forward and have a big ass national championship. Let's run it on par to show these bass guys what the saltwater guys got.
I'm sure Chad's heard from a few of those people already. I'm sure he's heard from a few of them. Just a few. Well, and then we got to get
one guy. I've had one guy declare that if I can get bass fishing to $100,000 payout like we did with the national championship, that if I can't get saltwater to 250,000, then I failed. Like, no pressure. Thanks.
No pressure. No pressure there.
At all.
No pressure there. No pressure there. All right. Shoot, man. Whew.
But it's possible because, there is some bigger money on the saltwater side for a lot of the destinations and a lot of the sponsors and a lot of the, there's some big money. Most of the big money tournaments in saltwater, though, they're kind of like Sailfish and Billfish and that stuff where the entry fees like more than all of us make in 2 years.
Yeah, they're on $500,000 boats.
Yeah, they're on them Bertram's and Hatteras Sport Fishers, and they burn more fuel than what I make in a year. And
yeah,
exactly.
So again, I'm not committing to that. if we can get to 50, 75, $100,000, I'm on.
Oh yeah, I'm
super
stoked.
happy.
Super
The
stoked.
one thing I'm not going to do that I did with KBF, and I'm not going to say it was a mistake, because I do think that $100,000 payout from Texas's own Dwayne Taft really was a big powder keg moment in kayak fishing, and it kind of blew the roof on a lot of things for kayak fishing. So I'm not going to say I wish I had done it differently, but what I'm going to say is we're going to do it a little bit differently in KSS, meaning we're not going to get to $100,000 payout where first is 100 and second's like 8. Yes. We're going to get to 100,000 where if we get to 100,000 for first, second's 25, 30, something more respectable, instead of having that giant gap like we did when we did it with the national championship, because one of the ways to avoid that is to avoid big guarantees. But I had to do big guarantees early on to get people interested and to get people committed and to create that frenzy. And I think we've got a track record now that proves we can do these things without necessarily having to have the guarantees. And to be honest with you, the guarantees kind of can shoot you in the foot with the world of COVID and all the stuff that's going on right now. So when COVID first happened, I made a big declaration and said, hey guys, we're going to remove the guarantee from the national championship. We're also going to push back the refund deadline. And so we gave, 7 months of opportunity for people to change their minds. So if they still went and fished it, they understood. But nobody could have foreseen what the hell was happening with with the old COVID thing. But I think that also, created a bit of a better understanding of we got to be careful about some of these things, moving forward. So I just want to do more realistic things that are going to be, more attainable systematically to get to that point. But I think we could easily have $100,000 payout in kayak fishing, saltwater fishing in 3 years. It took us 3 years to get there in freshwater. I think we can get there in 3 years in saltwater, maybe quicker. And then who knows, man? It could go gangbusters and be even bigger than that,
Definitely. I can see it happening. For sure.
I hope so.
Hey, one thing here.
I mean, none of us are going to get that. Well, you might. You might get those. I was going to say none of us are going to get that money. Drew's going to be over there trying to figure out how to untangle his popping cork. But
hey, popping corks catch redfish.
We're gonna see.
They catch redfish,
yeah, they do.
man.
They do.
Popping corks catch redfish.
Hey, I got a little something special here. I'm gonna share with some of the viewers. My rod sponsor, Waterloo Rods. They're a local company here where I live, Victoria. I got a little bit of something. Got a hat, got a buff, got a custom Corky Soft On XL in one of my favorite colors there. First person that can comment the slot limit for the KSS series starting off Tuesday. We'll get this. DM your address once I tell you it is. So first person to comment the slot limit for the fish submitted for the KSS series starting Tuesday. He's going to get that little grab bag of goodies right there. Anything else, got it? Everybody watching. Oh, David Morissette, 16 to 27.
So what if I sweeten the pot a little bit?
Uh-oh.
He's getting close to the camera. Here we go.
So
Guys, get ready.
What if we juice up this December challenge that's kicking off the KSS for real? This is the first official KSS event, right? And if you guys have gone to buy your membership, there's a free, there's an ambassador, and there's a premium. Ambassador is all your challenges. Free is you just get to access to your member discounts and you get access to the members only page. And then the premium is the competitor discount or the competitor package where you're competing for Angler of the Year. But if you're familiar with KBF, we did a lifetime membership for about 4 years. And when we redid the memberships, we didn't put the lifetime membership up because lifetime memberships can kill a small organization, like KBF, because every year when you get your membership ready, right off the top, you've got to fulfill all of the lifetime memberships. So we're going to be very careful about what we do with the KSS lifetime membership. We will be offering it here pretty soon. We're going to put it up for a finite period of time or a finite number of members, meaning 30 days or 25 members, 30 days or 20 members or something like that. But here's what I'm going to throw out there. Dustin, I'm going to challenge you to spread the word on this. Drew, I'm going to challenge you to spread the word on this. And then I'm going to challenge you guys to challenge the other saltwater influencers out there to help spread the word as well. Rather than put it on the person that wins the December challenge, I'm going to draw from everybody that enters a 5-fish limit in this December challenge that's coming up on Fishing Chaos. So the first official ever KSS event, I'm going to draw a lifetime membership, which will be $1,000 value. We're going to bump that price up on both sides to $1,000. It'll be $1,000 value from everyone that successfully enters a 5-fish limit in this December challenge that's coming up. That's on top of entry fees. That's on top of everything else. And that will be one of the first 2 lifetime memberships ever given away, because there is one up for grabs in the Livingston Lures event.
Yes.
So if you jump in on that Livingston Lures event, which by the way is freaking free.
Yep. If you're a KSS member, jump on.
You jump in on the December challenge, you got 2 shots at taking home a lifetime membership. The one on the Livingston Lure side is going to be more, winning it, top level, skill based kind of a thing. But this one is everybody that enters a 5-fish limit is going to be drawn. One of the cool things about Fishing Chaos is you can select parameters, and at the end of an event, you can press a randomizer button, and it'll generate a winner for you based on the parameters you set for it. We used to have to export that, import it into another software called, randomizer software, do a draw of a number, take that number, go find that number on the leaderboard. Nothing wrong with that, but Fishing Chaos makes it super easy. So what I'm going to do is everybody that enters a 5-fish limit, we're going to draw the first lifetime membership from that for KSS.
Sunday, December 27th, you're going to have a lot of Rat Reds getting pictures taken of it. 16, 17, 8. Hey, get those 5 fish in. Get those 5 fish, even if you ain't going to win.
Throw them rats up there right out the gate,
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. We seeing a lot of trash talk from Mississippi on this comments tonight.
Well, I got a question real quick where you were talking about that. So can you only submit 5 fish? Like 5 fish and that's it. You can submit them throughout the whole month.
It auto calls.
Like you can cull them out of you can virtually cull your fish out. Is that correct?
Yeah, the system will do it for you.
Yes.
Okay.
If you've got a 18 and you put in a 19, your 18 will get culled out.
Okay. All right.
And
I can catch plenty of 17 inch
fish. You can
fish.
keep upgrading until your best 5 fish are in there.
Yeah, since it's CPR, it's really doesn't affect things. The different states have different slots also, but since it's a catch photo release, that smaller fish limit doesn't really attain to your state slot, so it works out.
Dustin, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've actually had a couple of people reach out to me, not leadership of clubs, but guys that are part of clubs, and they said, man, we would really love to make our club event part of what KSS is doing, but our club event is a live weigh-in.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have Amanda amend the rules for the KSS rules. We're actually going to allow tournaments that do live weigh-ins. We're going to allow anglers to use those same fish in our catch photo release tournaments. And here's why I'm doing it. I don't want to make it to where we try to change the culture. I don't believe in not eating a fish, especially a redfish. Redfish and crappie, cobia pretty much get, their fair share of table fare my life. But in most places, you can only keep 2, right? Yes. So even though you're keeping 2, you're still having to release 3 to do what we do. And so we're going to amend the rules where in KBF, you cannot retain a fish. Like you can't, it's catch, photo, release. You have to release it. Yeah. We're going to allow anglers that are competing in catch, photo, retain tournaments to catch, photo, retain, and utilize that same fish for catch, photo, release for the KSS series, in hopes that we promote catch, photo, release, but not that we mandate it in places where there's long-standing tournaments that do a lot for, Hunters for the Hungry. They create a really awesome community event with those live weigh-ins. And I'm not trying to come in and, be such a stickler that we eliminate the ability to work with organizations or make it to where anglers who catch fish during those tournaments can't also use them for KSS virtual events.
Yeah. Sounds good. Show them up. Carol Wells had a question about upgrading her membership. Is that possible?
Yes. Yep.
Be able to do
I
that.
don't know if it's possible today, but I know that Fishing Chaos, John Callagaz, Jesse, Thomas, the team over there have been working with Amanda to where it's a real simple process. You go in, you enter the new membership, and if there's a difference in price, it just charges you the difference. If you go from free to ambassador or free to premium, it just upgrades your membership. So stay tuned for an announcement on that on the KSS page.
Yep.
But yeah, there's that.
Yeah. Then there's another question about the only Fishing Chaos or would Tourney X still be used as far as KSS goes?
As far as KSS goes for now, we're only using Fishing Chaos because we're only doing a limited series. But if I can get Kayak Saltwater Series to grow to the point where we have the ability to create events for Tourney X, I'll absolutely host events on Tourney X. We're going to keep hosting, some of our bass tournaments over there, and I'm going to try to make up even more events to host on Tourney X. I asked Dwayne from Tourney X if he could make the one night stand to where instead of it being one weekend out of the month, it's a month-long event, but you get to pick one night to fish. And so he said, that he'll work on it, that he should be able to pull that off. And once we're able to do that, then I want to do more one night stands on Tourney X, because I think a lot of times people don't do the one night stands because they can't fish that particular weekend.
Yes.
And so if they could fish one night that month, they would love it. Then what we may be able to do is take that one night stand, and instead of it just being regional, we could do a state one night stand, right? And that state one night stand would be by state. And I also think that more people would then compete, because part of the reason people don't compete is they got to compete with people in states they don't think they could compete with. So if we can grow that, I even think that there's a Suns, state one night stand. I think there's a Suns championship opportunity down the road. We take all the people from the one night stand, and then we have a national championship one night stand on like a particular body of water somewhere in the country, but it's the same concept. You come into town, it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday event, but you only get to fish one night.
Yeah.
That's
awesome there. Definitely fun. Well,
there's so many different options with the CBR tournaments.
Oh yeah,
it is. It's so fun.
You can do it however as creative as you want to be. And the good thing is you're able to listen to the anglers and do how the anglers want to do it. Poco, man.
That's my boy right there. Yeah, that's the way to go. Yeah.
KSS Live.
Oh man, yeah, we're Poco. I'm teaming up with him coming up in the next weekend, hopefully.
I'm gonna get in here for that. If you're paying, you got
get your membership.
Go see somebody. Go see a doctor. I'm gonna get back out after that. Go see somebody. I don't know you. Go see somebody.
Poco's a good dude now. Come on. Poco was he was a boat guide for the longest time, and he just kind of branched out in the kayak fishing this past year. Had some podiums this year, and I had him on the podcast a couple months back. Good dude.
What emoji is that he has next to that?
Oh, it's the one with the big teeth.
Okay, gotcha.
The big grin.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought it was, I was just making sure it wasn't the one that was doing like the kissy face, like the like the lips off to the side.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Hey, Greg just popped in with a redfish one night stand.
I'm down with that.
Hmm.
There's a bunch of canals with lights that hold some fish around here, some docks. That's a good deal right there, Greg.
Redfish and trout, man. You'll have everybody mad at people fishing their green lights.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, bro. I can't tell you how many guided trips I saved. I used to guide out of in Corpus Christi. I would guide out of the the pier right across from Snoopy's, and it's called Clem's Marina.
Yep.
And when we would do these, when I would do these guaranteed trips, that's how I paid for college while I was on active duty. That and waiting tables at a place called Wings and More. But if I didn't get the clients a limit, I'd pass the Clemson Marina and come down that next channel and run up into them canal houses back there behind Snoopy's.
Yes, sir.
30,
Throwing the lights.
45 minutes and them green lights. You catch a limit, and then you'll be back at the dock.
Little small shrimp imitation lure. Tick, tick. Catch all you try to want.
Then it got to where I could do guided trips where I literally would meet people at dark at the ramp, and we'd just go fish those canals all night. And I saw some interesting stuff through the windows of houses trolling around in those canals at night.
I bet you did.
Yeah, man. But they're fun.
That goes back to that membership that he was just talking about on paying for those memberships. Those are the people that have them canal houses. They can afford those memberships.
We're
kayakers. We're too broke for memberships for stuff like that. We got to pay for our obsession with the online tournaments now. I got to set aside some money.
Yeah, I'm glad to see the buzz on this, Chad. I really am. I'm stoked for this and ready to move on with this season. And that 10, man, that's like a golden egg at the end of the. That's going to be legit.
Yeah. So one of the things that we should remind everybody is the way we're going to do the redfish thing is it's never going to stop. So we're going to do the challenges in December. They're going to qualify you all the way back around until August or September of next year. We'll have that nailed down next week. The championship will be in either September or October. Then the 10 will be in November. So then during the month of November, when everybody else is fishing the 10, there'll be an online challenge going on for everybody else to go ahead and start fishing for the next year. Yeah. So we're never going to stop. There's going to be a monthly challenge every month. The one in October for the folks that aren't in the national championship goes towards the following year. And then in November for the folks that aren't in the 10. So October back around to September is going to be the way we run it.
Opened up. Say Charles Mason just asked a question about this going to be online on the website, or are you able to do an app like the CCA Star? Yes, this will be a online event on the app. It is a Fishing Chaos. So yeah, go check that out there. Fishing Chaos on all the
type in fishingchaos.com.
Yep.
Here pretty soon we'll have a landing page, fishingchaos.com/KSS.
Take you right to it.
Yep.
And with that, hey, what we going on right now? An hour and a half.
I think
hour 32 minutes.
I think
time flies.
Subscriptions to stuff like Poco put out that we are starting to taper.
Don't act like you don't know what the website is. We all know what the website is.
I don't know what the website is. I just don't understand paying for it. I'm going to agree with Dan. I just don't get it.
Yeah. I don't see a PG-13 rating on there anywhere. I don't know. Oh, man. Yeah, with that, man, let's go wrap up for the evening, man, Chad. Drew, hey, thanks for coming on, dude. My man from the Paddlers Playbook right there. Got support from some great Texas companies also, ACK, Real Sportswear. Drew, it was a blast having you on, man. Get to interact with you in person now over the internet land here. And, man, we're going to have to do some more of these collabs sooner than later.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We'd love to have you on. I actually have an idea for a live for us. I want to do a round table. I want to do, us paddling fin. We can get the kayak bass and beers. We can get 5 or 6 different guys on here and really support the podcast, because like Chad was saying earlier, I think I think because I don't know, but I think a lot of guys that listen to podcasts listen because they want to learn and they want to feel like they're a part of the group. And I believe we all do a good job of trying to teach our listeners and teach the community and gather together resources by having on people like Chad, by having on people in the industry that are able to make everybody better fishermen. And I know on our podcast, our whole goal is to make your time on the water more enjoyable, more comfortable, more entertaining. And I know over at Paddle and Fin, you guys do the same thing with all of your podcasts. And I think it's great that we can all get together, talk like this, and really try to help people become better fishermen and enjoy their time on the water, because that's what it's all about.
So I got an idea, Drew. Do you mind if I kind of just float it out there here live?
Go ahead. We've already had all kinds of other stuff floated out.
So I told you guys when I did your podcast, that releases this Monday, that I was launching a podcast, right? I'd planned on doing it pre-COVID. Then I was going to try to do it when I broke my hand. And then now the timing is going to be such that I'm probably going to launch it January, February. It's going to be called the Not Right Podcast. It's where I just get to be me. I get to be unfiltered. I get to do my thing. And I get to talk about all things fishing, not just kayak fishing, not just tournaments, but everything. So why don't we create a group of folks that have a kayak-based podcast, even if it's not 100%, but a kayak-based podcast. Let's group it together and everybody promote each other, and we call it the Cast Net. So it's the network of cat podcasts. Tie it together. You see how that play works right there?
I see how you did that.
I see that. I think that's pretty
and then
cool.
What we'll do is each one of us will promote everybody else's podcast.
See? Hey, DP came on and gave a thumbs up. He's like that little emoji, like ding. But that's how it is. We all promote each other, man. What we can do is
we can all get that spiderweb elbow tattoo, but we'll get a cast net.
Get a cast net around
and then
there.
We can be like, don't forget to hit up the cast net.
Yeah. Instead of that spider-web tattoo, you get a cast net. Like
instead of it be a cast net, and you have the string coming up. Anyway.
I don't have room. I have to get it on the knee or something.
You get a rope around for every year that you're a part of it. One rope around there.
Your hash rope. Yeah, your hash.
Got to get it at the national championship. Everybody gets a rope.
Oh yeah, well, good deal, man. Chad, we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on here with us tonight.
Thank y'all for having me.
I'm glad we got to share all this info. We're looking forward to kicking off the KSS Challenge Series season starting Tuesday, December the 1st. DP, thanks for running the background, the questions. Tuners, everybody listening or watching or listening or whatever you're doing, all your questions, everything y'all share. We thank everybody for jumping on here. I got one quick announcement.
Did David?
Yeah, David Moore said yes, you did. Just direct message me your address, or I'll see you on the water. Hopefully. One quick announcement here: Chasing the Tide, saltwater segment here along with Paddle and Fin. We're hosting a February kayak speckled trout showdown. It'll be a 10-fish aggregate. It'll be running on the Fishing Chaos app, and it is live right now. You go to Fishing Chaos, you look it up. It is on there. Speckled trout online challenge, no slot limits, kayak only. Motors can be used, and you have to weigh your fish. Yeah, it's going to be February 1st through the 28th. So I wanted to throw that out there real quick too.
All right, let me piggyback on that one and do what we do, and let's throw a $100 bonus out there. The highest placing KSS member in that event.
Boom! There you go. Hey, thank you, Chad.
There's gonna be some weight. There's gonna be some weight thrown around February trout around Texas, man. There should be some big weights in there. I see you pointing at yourself.
I'm fishing that one too.
I was gonna say, are you fishing your own tournament?
Yeah, I'm leading. David's running one right now. I'm in the lead unless some other kids come up ahead of me. And the weather's like crap this weekend, so we'll see. I was hoping to upgrade a couple fish this weekend, but the weather looks like crap.
Dustin puts them up, man. He's got them 5-pounders over there.
I might have to get me a bag of Cinco's and head down to Baffin Bay.
Oh yeah, yep. Oh, don't let out too many secrets, Chad.
I'm just gonna go catch flounder. That's all I'm gonna do. I'm gonna catch flounder to go eat. Y'all can have those trout.
Hey, listen, I know you don't want me to say it because I kind of tiptoed around it right there, but if you ain't throwing a Cinco or a trick worm for trophy speckled trout, you are wrong.
Yep. Especially when you got connections for somebody to do your saltwater colors in them.
I'm just saying.
I mean, if you think about the way a corky goes down slow.
If you put a green pumpkin bag of Cinco's in a Ziploc bag and throw a half a thing of red jello food coloring in there and shake it up, just
think about what it looks like.
Just do that. Just do that.
Bloodworm.
Just do that. That's all I got to say.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Cool.
Well,
On
fellas,
that
thanks
note,
for having me. I'm
yes,
gonna
sir.
jump off here and go watch a Netflix documentary about something to do with the Holocaust. I got one more to go.
There you go. Go finish
All
up
right.
the shows.
What's up,
Thanks for
Dylan?
taking the time out tonight, Chad. And
right,
we'll talk to you soon, brother. I appreciate
Thank
it,
y'all.
man.
Love
Later,
you.
man.
Appreciate it.
Love you,
Thank
brother. Yes, sir.
Have a good night.
Yes, sir.